Hello? Hello?
Hi, Mama.
How are you, Chair?
I'm good, and you, Mama?
I'm fine. I was checking that I'm in the right meeting because I see that you are quiet and it's after 10 and I had to go to the airport. I don't have enough time.
Kaloko, Honorable Chair is in the meeting. He will start at any time from now.
Okay. No, thanks,
Yeah,
Chair.
Mama Ngwenya. We just wanted to, I was just still chatting with the Secretariat to check if all the people that we expect to have here are already in attendance.
Okay.
Mm.
No, okay, thanks very much, Chair.
We will start soon, yeah. Just give me a minute or so.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Chair. Sure.
Good morning, honorable members. We are now in the state of readiness to commence with the meeting.
Recording in progress.
So let me take this opportunity, honorable members, to welcome you on this meeting. Very important meeting because we have to get a briefing from the Department of Communication and Digital Technologies on the submission received on the South African Post Office Bill 1111B /23. This is the main item on the agenda for us for today's meeting. And I would like to make a clear indication to the members that we have a responsibility to ensure that we do take a decision in this respect, and therefore we have to process this because the custodianship of the lawmaking and adoption and approval of submissions of this nature, it rests with us as lawmakers. So I wish to welcome you members and say this meeting is officially opened now, and we'll consider this submission through a briefing by the department. But we'll also take this opportunity to ensure that given the fact that we could not meet last week owing to a number of meetings that were clashing with our own, so we also have a duty to adopt minutes of previous meetings, including reports. I therefore wish to say, honorable members, the meeting is duly opened. Now I will just check with the Secretariat in terms of if we have any apologies.
Thank you, Chair. I've received 2 apologies, one from the Minister as well as from the Deputy. Thank you, Chair.
In terms of the senior officials of the department, who is here leading the department?
We have Ms. Dimakatso Chi, who's the Director of ICT Chair.
You mean that is the leader of the delegation? Or you are just citing someone present? Is Mr. Dimakatso leading the delegation, carrying the mandate to brief this committee?
Yes, Chair.
Okay. Can we then go to the quorum, or we can skip the quorum and we deal with it when we consider the minutes?
May we please deal with it when we consider the minutes?
Okay. Mr. Dimakatso, before you come, let me just indicate that we would have loved that the minister is here as well as the deputy, but we understand that everybody during this period, people are all over the show because we're coming to the end of the tenure of our sixth administration, and therefore people are doing all sorts of wrapping up in their respectful responsibilities. So I would say that maybe you will have to indicate that as a committee we did express reservations with the fact that both the political principals of the department are not here, but also which makes it more difficult is the fact that the DG nor DDGs are here. Because ultimately this bill, in terms of what it is expected to do, the executive ought to ensure that they are aligned with what we resolve on here, because in the final analysis, they are to implement what we agree on here. It's very important that therefore the custodian, from the point of view of the executive, should be here. At least if the minister and the deputy was not here, the senior officials of the department, it would have been great that they are here, especially the DG or the DG. But given the fact that we are pressed for time ourselves as a select committee, that we need to ensure that we process this before the end of the term of the sixth administration, we will then allow you to proceed to brief the committee. Mr. Dimakatso, I invite you now to make your presentation. Has Mr. Dimakatso been kicked out by the system?
Chairperson, there's a hand raised on the system.
Just one moment. I just want to check why Mr. Dimakatso could not speak. I had not yet invited the hands, but let me just check with Mr. Dimakatso. Mr. Dimakatso, I can see you are in a meeting. Your camera is open, but your microphone is muted. Can you unmute? Yes, Mr. Dimakatso. You are now unmuted. Can you speak? Okay, maybe he's having technical glitches. In the meantime, let me take your hand, Honorable de Bruin.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I must agree with what you have just said, and I think it's unacceptable for once again that there's no political aid present in this meeting. And I can't see how we can resolve any issues on the bill without the political principle. We have had this problem since years already, meeting after meeting, where we struggle with this. And even yesterday, we had the same issue in the other committee, and this committee as well. We had a resolution that we will not accept this, and we will make sure that the political aides attend these meetings. So I'm not comfortable continuing without any political principle.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. De Bruin. There was another hand. Let's also hear Honorable Visser.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and the few of our honorable members that are present. This is really, I agree with Honorable De Bruin. This is really, it is disrespectful to the committee, and it's wasting our time. And how can we listen to presentations if the presenter is not the director, or at least the deputy director? So nobody of the post office, like it echoes over South Africa, nobody of the post office are here. So we're wasting our time to sit in with this thing that is clearly now an indication that they're not prepared for this thing. And we have to waste our time to sit and listen to this. I am going to recuse myself of this meeting. Thank you.
No, honorable members, don't take a stance that says that you're going to boycott the meeting. I think, in my opening remarks, I had made it clear that this meeting belongs to us first and foremost as the members of this committee. And we have every right to sit in our own meeting as owners and custodians of the Select Committee on Public Enterprises. The people we are referring to, yes, they ought to have been here as per our invitation, but don't kill your meeting because invitees did not come. You are not taking a right decision. And we are making a strategic mistake by outsourcing the authority for meeting to proceed or not to proceed by a mere absence of invitees. Yes, I register the point that in terms of the briefing that we ought to be getting, is that the senior leadership of the department ought to have been here to take us through. And I agree with you on the aspect of saying that there is a sense of condescending with the fact that they are not here. But I must give you comfort that the person who will be presenting is a director. It's actually a director. Is not someone junior. But we would have loved to have a DDG or a DG. They are not here. If you suggest that we do away with this meeting, then it means then that it is shelved for, and we are taking a risk that we may not have an opportunity to process this. I think that we are saying that we are registering our displeasure and understanding the period where we are in. I would appeal to the members to allow for this briefing to go ahead, unless you really feel strongly then that there's no point, then we can simply consider the minutes. But from where I stand, I believe that the department ought to take us through this.
Excuse me, Honorable Chairperson. The problem is, if there's any questions or debate happening in terms of the presentation that we are receiving today, then there's no political principle that will answer the questions and will take responsibility for the answers and so forth. So I realize the fact that we are at the end of the term, but it is still not acceptable. I just cannot accept this.
Can I get the views of the other members? Then we can make a determination whether to proceed or not to proceed. Okay, I see that the DG has joined us now. So the DG is here. So in that respect, then as the head of the department, if the DG is here, I think I will appeal to the members for this presentation to go ahead. DG, you are arriving at a point where we were raising our concern with the fact that we only have a director, you know, in terms of your hierarchy, a director administratively sits at the third level of the leadership administratively of the department. So we're quite worried about that. So now that you are here, I'm going to invite you perhaps to give comfort to the members. We're not happy with the fact that the minister and the deputy are not here, but when you are here as the head of the department, at least that gives us comfort. The other aspect, DG, is that we see that the board of the South African Post Office is not here. There's not even a single board member, no, the CEO. So, I mean, they ought to be in attendance when we do something like this, even if the department leads. So, yeah, maybe before you come in, DG, let me invite Honorable Modise and Honorable Ngwenya. I see their hands are up. In that order, Honorable members, Honorable Modise.
No, thank you very much, Chair. My hand was, let me greet everybody in the meeting. I raised my hand before DG comes into the meeting, trying to say, I propose that we must continue with the meeting because we know normally when the deputy and the minister are, we have a meeting, they are coming. So today, if they have commitment, I just want to plead with the members to say, let's continue. But now the head of the department is in the meeting. Obviously, we have to continue, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I see indeed that you had raised your hands shortly before we saw that the DG had actually checked in. Can we then agree that, honorable members, that we invite the DG so that we avoid raising the same things? I see now we have 4 hands, for instance. So
No,
maybe so that maybe for the purposes of progress, we can then move to a point where the presentation gets tabled.
agreed,
Interested in-
Chairperson.
So,
Agreed.
Chairperson,
Thank
we are
you.
going to suppress our views,
No, I'm
thinking
not.
that we are going to speak the same thing. I don't think you are in our minds. You said it. This is our meeting,
No,
and every member has a right to
Honorable
speak.
Magwala,
Chairperson.
I am not suppressing you. That's why I was asking a question. Do you still feel like you want to say something, given the fact that the DG is now here? That's the question I posed.
Chair, my hands was up long time.
Okay, let me give you members the honorable the opportunity then to speak. Honorable Ngwenya. Honorable Ngwenya, you can take
Thanks
the floor.
very much, Chair. We don't want to waste time, Chair, but the situation is the one that make now us to delay the meeting. Moreover, the meeting was supposed to start at 10. Chair, I support that the meeting must continue, but Chair, really, this is not fair to us because, Chair, we all know that Wednesday is not a comfortable day for the minister, although I don't know where the deputy minister is. But since now, Chair, there is a senior from the department, I'm proposing that, Chair, let us start the meeting and it must not happen again. We rather not to take Wednesday if we are going to have a challenge of the presence of the political head of our committee. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Ngwenya. Honorable Makwala.
Thank you, Chairperson. Mine is to Landok. Is not like to sing the same song as other members, but for meeting purposes, I want to place it on record, is that this committee had the resolution that when the principals are not there, are not continuing. Now I see you are changing a tune of telling us about the DG. We spoke about the minister and the deputy minister. We are politicians, have to get answers from politicians, not administration. I don't understand the stand that we are taking or the direction that we are taking is not in line with the resolution of these committees. Say, I think the same thing happened yesterday and it's continuing, but I want to place it on record. It must be on minutes what we are saying, that we are not happy that the principals are not here. You are even saying now the board is not here. But why must we be disrespected like that by this department and its principals? We can never accept that because now the DG is here, we must run around. No. Politicians answer to us, not administration. We must not be taken like that. As the EFF, we're not going to take this thing very light, and it's becoming a norm at the end of a very crucial administration, the sixth administration. This is very crucial. Now to close, and now we must fall behind as a committee, not to continue with our bills. And then we are going to be told that the committee has failed to do this and this and this. It must be corrected, Chairperson. I'm not fighting, but it must really be corrected. You as the head of this committee, you must take it up. Action must be taken. It can never be just light like that. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Makwala. Honorable Bibi, you still want to say something?
No, thank you, Chairperson. No, I was going to say the same thing with Honorable Ngwenya, that Wednesday is the problem, but nevertheless, let us continue with the meeting. Thank you so much, Chairperson.
Okay, thank you very much, honorable members, for raising your concerns. And I've noted exactly what you have said, and I share the sentiment. But we must agree indeed that we have a principle that at all material times, that the political principals must be here, especially when we are discussing matters that relate to their departments. It's only when we are dealing with our own issues that do not require their presence, like minutes and so on, our reports, then it's fine. Meetings can happen without them. So those concerns are noted and we'll process them as you have articulated them, honorable members. Let me now invite ODG. Sis Nonkubera.
A very good morning to the chairperson, as well as to the honorable members on the platform. Chair, I want to firstly apologize. As indicated, today is cabinet. The minister and myself, we've got an item. I'm actually on standby to present that item. The deputy minister is attending SCOPA meeting, which is dealing with the IFMS. As you know, that's been a critical program for government, and the SCOPA meeting is in person. So I'd like to therefore apologize on behalf of the department as well as the principals for the non-attendance, Chair, and the request that we've made in the past to look for an alternative day than Wednesday is requested. I'm hoping that my item on cabinet will only come in after 12, Chair. I will therefore signal as and when I will need to step off. It's the data and the cloud policy. Chairperson, with regards to the SAPO board, I think the SAPO board, as you would know, we don't have a SAPO board. The South African Post Office is under business rescue. The business rescue practitioners are currently busy right now with the Section 189 as part of their process, and therefore they are unable to make it. I've tried to see if perhaps one of them could come in. So there is no status of a SAPO board or an executive management, as SAPO, safe to say, of the business rescue practitioners. So Chair, with that out, I would just want to pause and humbly request that the apologies be noted and be recorded on behalf of the two principals. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, DG. So DG, who's going to be leading the briefing of the committee? Because we are at that point now.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. And with your permission, I would like to just give just a quick overview, mindful of the fact that we have been observing the process with regards to the work that is being done by Parliament and also the Select Committee with regards to the South African Post Office Amendment Bill. And as indicated during our briefing, we are hoping that the Select Committee would consider the approval of the bill in order then to take it through to National Assembly. This obviously follows the approval of the bill by the Portfolio Committee. So the postal landscape, honorable members, as you would know, has drastically changed due to the technological advancements with the decline in the traditional mail volumes and services that the South African Post Office is mandated and obliged to deliver in terms of the universal terms and laws. So as you know, we're part of the Universal Postal Union, which is an intergovernmental body under the United Nations. It's the oldest serving union, and its primary purpose is to ensure cooperation between the postal sector's players, and that they've also assisted with coming up with strategies to ensure that what we consider as the designated postal operators, we're one of them being SAPO, provide up-to-date products and services that are relevant and will ensure the sustainability. And more than anything else, they also respond in terms of the consumer's needs and demands, and then obviously keeping up with the pace. As presented previously, also to the Select Committee, the bill aligns to ensure this. We have received a number of inputs from stakeholders. We had engaged extensively as a department. We also know that there has been submissions as well as inputs that have come also to. But I want to emphasize on the need for us on why then we are putting the amendments to the SAPO bill. And this basically, as I said, more than anything else, takes into cognizance the new trends that have come up. We also want to make sure that the services are relevant and they respond to the needs of the consumers, and will also ensure operational as well as financial sustainability of the entity. So I'm going to request, Honorable Chair, if perhaps my colleague could take us through the presentation in as far as the comments that we've received. Mainly these are from the South African Express Parcel Association, the Congress of the South African Trade Unions, as well as the South African National Council for the Blind. So I'm going to request my colleague, Mr. Makatso Mojela, to kindly take us through the presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, she can go ahead.
Thank you, DG. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Good morning, honorable members, and good morning to everybody who is on the platform. As indicated by the DG, my name is Dimakajo Tie, formerly known as Mojela, as she indicated, and I'll be taking the committee through the presentation in as far as the key objectives and also responding to the stakeholder comments that the department received from the select committee. Honorable Chair, if I may be allowed to switch off the camera. Thank you once again, Honorable Chair. And if we can go straight to slide number 2, that deals with the amendment to the key provisions. Honorable Chair, just to emphasize, as presented in the previous meeting, that the department presented this bill on the 21st of February. The main objectives of this amendment bill, Honorable Chair, is to revise the duties and expand on the mandate of the South African Post Office as provided for in the South African Post Office SOC Limited Act of 2011. We are saying that we want to repurpose the infrastructure of the Post Office to provide diversified and expanded services and exploit the infrastructure capacity to extract value and forge partnerships with other stakeholders, and also leveraging on its widespread network infrastructure. We want the Post Office to serve as a facilitator in the provision of government services. And we are also, through this amendment, Honorable Chair, addressing some of the problematic provisions that were identified during the implementation of the Act. And we are saying also that SAPO should be allowed to serve as a logistic and e-commerce provider, as well as a logistic partner for other e-commerce and logistics players, including the SMMEs and also informal traders, and also serve as a digital hub for businesses and communities, and also as a designated authentication authority that fulfills its role as a national trust center. Honorable Chair, we are also dealing with the issues of the appointment functions of the stamp advisory through this amendment. If you can go to the next slide, please. So in terms of the key provisions that we are amending is under section 2, which we are inserting new objects. And these objects are to ensure that SAPO is not only empowered by the legislation to provide basic postal services, but is empowered to provide other value services and to expand on its revenue generating streams as outlined in the National Integrated ICT policies. And this is linked to the main objectives that I've just outlined. Key to this amendment also is under section 4. Here we have inserted the number of duties that we would want SAPO to enter into, so that they are able to not only serve as a traditional postal services operator, but also ensure that they provide services that responds to the, as the DG has already indicated, responds to the ever-changing dynamics within the sector to ensure their relevance and their financial sustainability. Under this clause, Honorable Chair, which is the main clause, the main issues are those that I have already identified under the key objectives in the previous slide. If you can move to the next slide, please. So we are also under this clause provide for the amendment clause 4, which is also the main. We are providing for the amendment of section 7. This is here to make it clear that the normal expenditure of the Post Office to ensure universal postal services as required by law and any other service to achieve the mandate may be funded by Parliament out of money appropriated for that purposes. This is to ensure that funding is only provided for services that SAPO is required to provide as part of their social obligation, even though it might not be financially beneficial to the post office, which is currently the case where the post office is required to provide services universally to everybody in the country, regardless of whether it makes financial sense to provide that services to those communities, but to ensure that every citizen of this country is able to access postal services and other related services. And under that provision, we are also providing to ensure that all spheres of government are encouraged to utilize the post office infrastructure in the delivery of their services whenever possible, and set aside certain services to be provided by the post office. And the intention here, Honorable Chair, is to ensure that government institutions use the post office infrastructure, which is government owned, to deliver services to communities where possible, thereby ensuring that services are accessible to communities without having to travel long distances. And we have provided some of the examples of services that the post office infrastructure can be utilized to provide. As we see this as that we're saying that we see the post office as an extension of government and should be considered as a preferred supplier in certain instances, especially in the rural and underserviced communities, where a combination of post office services and government services will ensure full services housed in a single operation. And this is to transform the post office to be the service center for multiple services for communities that really need these services, and the post office infrastructure is available to be able to assist in providing those services to communities. So under clause 5, Honorable Chair, we are also amending section 8. Here we are reducing the number of non-executive member of SAPO that the minister can appoint from 10, which is currently 10, to 9, and also to provide for a minimum of 7. And we are saying that given the challenges that SAPO has been facing, and this is to ensure that the number of board is kept at a minimum and do away with any excessive cost, and the revised number will still assist to break deadlock during the board meetings. If you can go to the next slide, please. So under clause 7, we are providing for the amendment of section 11, and in this section, we are just deleting subparagraph C of subsection 4. This is just to remove the need for any person to be appointed as a board member to have a banking license. And this was made during the process where the post bank was seen, the post office was seen to be the shareholder of the post office. So we don't need that anymore, since the decision has been taken that the post bank and the post office are separate entities and will be governed separately. So we are also amending the section. This is just to emphasize that there is a provision which requires the union members to submit names to the minister for the appointment of the board to be board members. We are emphasizing that in this section, that those names that the unions should submit must be for the people who have required qualifications, skills, expertise in terms of this act, and the minister will only appoint qualified people. So here we are just emphasizing to ensure that when the unions submit names, they are able to, they need to check the act as to what the requirements are and be able to submit names that satisfy the requirements in terms of the act. Under clause 9 here, this is the new insertion providing for the appointment of the Stamp Advisory Committee that the minister may appoint, the process to be followed, the composition, the eligibility to be appointed, the functions and the disqualification and the removal. This insertion, Honorable Chair and members, is based on the fact that the committee that has been there within the post office as a Stamp Advisory Committee was established more than 15 years ago, and there was a legislative vacuum in terms of the terms of office, the appointments, the reappointments, and how they can remove. And then we are inserting these provisions in line with what has already been pronounced in the National Integrated ICT White Paper of 2016. If you can go to the next slide, please. So this are just under clause 10, we provide for the amendment of section 17. This is just to ensure that the performance contract of the chief executive officer is concluded with the board and not with the post office as it's currently provided for in the act. So the act makes reference to the post office instead of the board. So we are just correcting that under the section. Under clause 11, here we are amending section 25, subsection 1 and 3, dealing with the intervention by the minister, and just to remove a restriction where the minister may only replace and remove the board in the same manner as the initial board was appointed. So normally the initial board is appointed using the nomination committee, and the current provision compels the minister, even if it's to replace one board member, to follow the same process. We are saying this is a lengthy process, and as we have observed during the implementation, it's cumbersome, and we're now trying to avoid that process, even though the process will be followed, but we are just removing the issues of the nomination committee under this subsection. Again, under that section, we are increasing the term of administrator from 3 months to 12 months, and for the minister to report to the National Assembly within 18 months. The current time frame of 3 months is not reasonable and sufficient to ensure that the administrator is able to develop and implement any turnaround strategies. And this we have also observed when the administrator was appointed to oversee the post office when the board was dissolved. So we are just increasing the term for the administrator to be able to do the work. Honorable Chair, let me move to the issues of the stakeholder comments that the department received. And here we have analyzed the comments and inputs and provided response to those comments. As received from the select committee, as indicated by the DG, Honorable Chairperson, we received from the South African Express Parcel Association, Congress of South African Trade Union, COSATU, South African National Council for the Blind, which they have done their submission together with the Tape Aids for the Blind. Honorable Chair, SAEPA, as we call it, which is the South African Express Parcel Association, is an industry association representing the interest of its member of more than 100 businesses, which are active in the express freight, courier, and parcel delivery. Their members comprise mainly of large multinationals, local operators, which operate under the unreserved postal services in terms of the Postal Services Act. It should be noted, honorable members and chair, that these are private operators with no universal services obligations and are not regulated in terms of what they should charge and how they should deliver, unlike SAPO, whose fees and charges are regulated, and it is required to charge uniform rates for reserved services regardless of physical location. In terms of the submission, SAEPA primarily considered clauses of the bill which seeks to revise and expand on the mandate of the SAPO, and which is section 2, section 4, and section 7, and those will be dealt with in the next slides. From our analysis, Honorable Chair, SAEPA is not necessarily opposed to the SAPO providing those services that we have outlined that they should be providing. Their main opposition is that those services that we are amending, that we are inserting in the amendment, should not be inserted in the Act, and submitted that it is not clear what specific components of the existing legislative regime impedes SAPO from offering many of those value-added services that we are outlined in the proposed amendment. They further argue that the current legislative regime, which is the Postal Services Act of 1998, already appears to anticipate SAPO providing, for example, courier and express services alongside private and express logistics services provider. From our analysis, Honorable Chair, we found that the use of the term appears already indicate that they are not sure if that indeed is the case. And we are saying that the intention with regards to the revised mandate of the bill is for SAPO to go beyond the traditional postal services as provided for in the Provide Acts. And we are saying that from our analysis, SAEPA would want to see and to see government retaining the status quo in terms of the legislative framework governing SAPO and to continue providing basic services to households at their street and box address at a regulated cap. And this cannot be accepted as most of those legislated services have become obsolete due to this technological advancement that have taken place over the years and will not improve the operational and financial sustainability of the post office. As such, we are saying that SAPO as a creature of statute, and it's regulated by the Act in terms of its mandate and governance. Whenever there's this development, that legislative framework needs to be constantly reviewed to reflect the current developments. As I indicated, we will deal with the specifics where we deal with each sections where there was a comment in the next slide. If you can go to the next slide, please. So in terms of the comments made by COSATU, as the department, we welcome those comments, as COSATU welcomed and support that the South African Post Office Amendment Bill as tabled in Parliament and the National Assembly be considered and be passed by this House. And COSATU also believes that once these amendments are enacted into law, it will enable the Post Office to operate and fulfill its mandate and legal obligations. In their submission, Chair, COSATU support the expansion of SAPO mandate and acknowledge that SAPO cannot rely on simply posting letter in the era of e-communication, and further indicated that the bill provides a progressive shift by expanding the mandate of SAPO to include e-commerce, courier services, support for SMMEs, and enhanced partnership, and also with the Post Bank and other stakeholders. They further believe that once enacted, this amendment will position the Post Office on a sustainable trajectory and enable it to fulfill its developmental mandate. They also dealt with the issues of the 2.4 billion that was allocated to SAPO and welcomed that, and also submitted that should be accompanied by a clear turnaround plan that can ensure that Post Office can be stabilized and set on a sustainable path, and emphasize the need to urgently expand on this range of services to offer on the customers. And indeed, Honorable Chair, as the DG indicated, this turnaround plan has been developed with the business rescue practitioner to ensure that the allocations are to stabilize SAPO and to set it at a sustainable footing. They also emphasize that there will be some financial support required going forward, and this can be done in terms of the partnerships to enable it to enter the market fully, and requested the NCOP to move with speed in concluding the bill. If you can go to the next slide, please. So the other stakeholder, the last stakeholder that we received input from is the National Council for the Blind and the Tape Aids for the Blind. And in their submission Honorable Chair, this is a free national library producing thousands of accessible formatted audiobooks for its blind, visually impaired, and printed disabled members and beneficiary, and one of the member organization for the South African National Council for the Blind. So in terms of their submission, Honorable Chair, they also focused on clause 1, 2, 3, and 4, which deals mainly with the expansion of the SAPO mandate. Generally, Honorable Chair, the SANBC and TAPE 8 supports the amendment bill and provided some comments and inputs as to how the postal and digital services can be provided to their members in line with the amendment bill. And I will deal with those in the next slide. You can go to the next slide, please. In terms of SAEPA, under clause 2 of the bill, SAEPA argues that section 4 in particular, subsection 1D of SAPO already prescribed that SAPO developed reserved and unreserved postal services that are responsive to the users and customer, and that the proposed amendment is unnecessarily duplicative in as far as they seek to expand the mandate is concerned. And in our response, we are saying that, Honorable Chair, in terms of the reserved and the unreserved postal services, already that is the traditional postal services that has been provided for by the current legislation, which was developed in 1998. So the intention here is to insert for SAPO to provide services that goes beyond the traditional services, which is the reserved and unreserved, and provided in the current, as provided for in the current act, as referred to by SAEPA. So this amendment is in line with those insertion, and not only to deal with the traditional post office, but to ensure that they also respond to the development as they have happened over the years. In their submission under paragraph 2.8 to 2.10 on the ongoing litigation, Honorable Chair, we are saying that as the department would like to refrain from commenting on that and will await the court processes to be finalized. Can go to the next slide, please. This is the proposed amendment under section 4. Again, here is the expansion of the SAPO mandate. And here, Honorable Chair, the SAEPA is more fearful of the fact that those services that we are expanding on, they're saying that the government would want to create a further monopoly for the post office and prevent their members from delivering on those services. And we are saying that as the department, as indicated earlier on, that they would want government to retain the status quo in terms of the legislative framework governing SAPO and to continue providing basic services. And we are saying that this cannot be accepted, and the department believes that SAPO, as a creature of statute with the legislated mandate, such legal framework needs to be constantly reviewed and enhanced to reflect the ever-changing environment. And we are saying that SAPO is also to ensure that SAPO is accountable as it should to Parliament in as far as implementing this legislation is concerned, and empower the Parliament to effectively monitor the implementation of the Act by SAPO. So by outlining all these mandates in the legislation, we want to make sure that SAPO is able to be held accountable on what they have done and what they have not done, as they have been empowered by the law to provide such services. and to expand on their mandate and provide services that are sustainable and not hide behind the fact that they are the services that they are mandated to provide has become has declined and almost becoming redundant. And also the fear that SAEPA is raising under paragraph 2.11, 2.13, and 2.14 of their submission is that amendments to the Act, they see it as a precursor to more concerted attempts to increase the scope of exclusivity afforded to SAPO and to create a monopoly. As indicated, this is not the intention of this amendment to create any further a monopoly for the benefit of the post office. If you can go to the next slide, please. So we are saying this already under section 15 subsection 3 of the Postal Services Act. There is a prohibition to increase the scope of the reserved services as provided for in the law. And it says that the minister, by notice in the Gazette, if they make such amendments to the schedules, they cannot cause any activity falling under the unreserved postal services to fall under the reserved services. So under that section already, the government or the minister is prohibited to even increase the monopoly that is already there in the Postal Services Act. So this amendment's intention is only to create that it's not government's intention through this amendment to create any monopoly in favor of SAPO on the expanded mandate, but it's just to purely govern the operations of SAPO to ensure that it is guided by the law to provide services that are relevant and sustainable. Again, Honorable Chair, as the department, however, we are not in agreement and with what SAEPA submitted in terms of paragraph 2. Point 12, that the unreserved postal operators or courier operators can convey items described under Schedule 4. Currently, those services are only reserved for the postal services in terms of the law and in terms of the license. Regarding the proposed amendment to Section 7, SAEPA's observation is indeed correct that funding will only be for universal services obligation and not for any other purposes. We just wanted to confirm that. And also again, under subsection 5 of the, regarding subsection 5, the Postal Services Act already, as I indicated, provided for the reserved services. Those services that are outlined in the bill and also under the subsection will not be part of the services that are considered to be reserved. So we are not introducing any monopoly further, but we are just expanding on the mandate of the South African Post Office. Can go to the next slide, please. So these are submissions from the SANCB and Tape 8 Chair. Their comments were mainly on the clause 1, which dealt with the definition. They provided input to say that access to post offices at any point beyond the post office infrastructure. So they would want to, for the services of the post office to go beyond, to be accessed beyond the post office infrastructure. And they're saying that due to the closure of many of the post offices and the reposition of the vehicle, SAPO is no longer able to operate its roller-tainer postal conveyance services previously, physically conveying to 25,000 library CD units per week for Tape 8 via Durban Mail at the central depot in Durban, and therefore recommended to the committee that they should consider incorporating free electronic postage, virtual services points substitute for the conveyancing of the post-free material to their members. And we are saying that indeed the definition in the proposed amendment of the service points is aimed at ensuring that the post office is able to deliver services utilizing other infrastructure over and above the traditional postal infrastructure. So service points, as we are defining it, it means any place where post office services can be accessed from. If you can go to the next slide, please. They also made comments in terms of the definition of the universal postal services. And they also quoted the United Nations Conventions on the Rights of Persons with Disability and also the Universal Postal Union, which provide for the free literature for the blind services. And they're saying that these services, regardless of how it is provided by the post office, it should still remain a free services. And we are saying in our response that that has been noted, and this will be dealt with during the licensing processes to ensure compliance by the post office, and that the post office continue to deliver the services for the blind freely as required by this international organization. In their submission also, Chair, they were submitting that the issues of the universal services obligation as imposed to the post office currently, only to the post office currently, that it needs to be imposed to the unreserved postal licensees, so that they are also assist in delivering this material to their members and the beneficiaries, especially those living in the rural area without access to internet and do not have assistive technology device capable of downloading the books online. And we, as the department, we are saying that we acknowledge that that submission, and that the unreserved postal service operator are currently governed by the Postal Services Act of 1998, and the recommendation as it is will be looked into during the amendment of that act, which the department is currently working on, and also that will be looked into through regulations and licensing process. Under clause 2 in their submission on the amendment of section 2, the proposal is also submitted by SANCB and Tape 8 that currently we have the Universal Services Agency Fund, and they are submitting that if that fund can also be utilized to fund the establishment of community digital hubs, which include training centers, community business centers, and connecting school libraries and other communities in outlying area also. And this should be done in partnership with SAPO, and they should be able to fund that. USAP should be able to fund SAPO to establish these centers. And as the department, we are saying that we are acknowledging that submission. And indeed, the insertion under clause 2 and 4 are aimed at ensuring that SAPO form partnership with other stakeholders. And as the department, already there's work being done with the development of the Digital Development Fund. And once that is finalized, and for these programs and these services that they have outlined, SAPO will also be eligible to apply for such for the rollout of such project under that, and once that work has been finalized. And some of the proposal, of course, are being implemented through the SA Connect project that the department is implementing. So on the amendment of section 4, through the expansion of SAPO mandate and legislation of more services to ensure relevance and sustainability, as SANCB and Tape 8 supports the insertion and provided the recommendation that some of those services that the post office can adopt as done by other couriers, such as Botswana, Tanzania, Morocco, Switzerland, Armenia, as highlighted in the UPU and also the UPU document on the digital economy and digital postal activities on global panorama of 2019, which provide valuable insight on the successful partnerships. So this here, they are just recommending some of the work that is being done by other operators that the department or the SAPO indeed can adopt. And we have acknowledged those, and this is indeed the insertions under that sections are aimed at ensuring that SAPO form partnerships with other stakeholders and expand on its services offering to create value and ensure sustainabilities. And as when the act is being implemented, some of those services that have been outlined to be provided by these other operators, obviously SAPO will have to do a benchmark and ensure that the services that are relevant and the services that will ensure their sustainability will be implemented through these amendments. Chair, under section 7 relating to the funding of SAPO on for user and also utilizing the SAPO infrastructure by all spheres of government in the delivery of their services, they support this proposal and recommended that the department should also assist in zero rating some of their websites so that their members are able to access those services, those documents, those books and material that they have provided for on their website freely. And as a department, we are saying that we acknowledge that submission, and the proposal on the zero-rated website will be looked into as part of the work that the department is doing within with the relevant structures of the department, Honorable Chair. So in conclusion, based on the submissions that were made, we're emphasizing the fact that SAPO is a creature of statute and is governed by the legislation in terms of its mandate and duties, and such legislative framework governing the entity needs to constantly be reviewed to reflect the ever-changing environment. SAPO should be legally empowered and positioned to continue play a critical role of providing multiple services to community that responds to the ever-changing needs of the customer, businesses, and citizens, and thereby also ensuring that SAPO is sustainable operationally and financially. As this amendment bill will be an instrument within which SAPO is it's monitored, we are saying that they need to be guided to ensure accountability, not only to the department, but also to Parliament in as far as implementing this legislation that governs it is concerned, and also empower Parliament to effectively monitor the implementation of the Act by SAPO. And therefore, we'd like to recommend, as per other stakeholders, that the Select Committee consider favorably these proposed amendments to the SAPO Act. Thank you, Honorable Chair. That will be the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The department therefore stands ready to clarify any questions and also to respond to the honorable members. Thank you.
Honorable members, there is the submission by the Department of Communications and Digital Technologies. Members, I would like now to say that this is an opportunity for you to interact with this presentation, make your comments, raise your questions of clarity, if there are any of those. The opportunity is now yours, honorable members. Let me see on the platform if we have hands. I see the hand of Honorable Bibi. That's the only hand that I have at the moment. So in that case, Honorable Bibi, let me give you the opportunity to have a bite.
Okay, thank you very much, my chairperson, and greetings to the members, and also greetings to the officials that are then also the department. Honorable Chairperson, I would say thanks for the presentation from the department, and I've got only one question. My question is, Chairperson, since SAPO is under business rescue, now how can you assure this committee that what happened with SAA, where the business rescue process collapsed, does not happen with SAPO, as it also one of our SOEs? That is my first question, my chairperson. Thank you very much. I'm done, chairperson. Thank you.
Okay, Honorable Bibi, I'm trying to check. Thanks so much. Let me check
Okay.
if we have any other hand. It seems like we don't have another hand. Unless members are unable to raise their hands, or maybe they are covered. No, DG.
Sorry,
Chair,
Chair, there's a
hand
hand.
is up.
Oh, your hand is up?
Yes, Baba.
Okay, Honorable Ngwenya, please go ahead.
Thanks very much, Baba. Chairperson, first and most, we note the presentation of the department together with the input and submission from the stakeholders, as mentioned in the presentation. Honorable Chairperson, I wanted to check if the department is, I want to check that the department is recommending to the committee to accept this bill with the input and submission from the stakeholders. The second question, Chair, I want to check that if this bill gets adopted by the committee with inputs from the stakeholders, and what impact will it have to the input adopted by the National Assembly? The last one, Chair, I wanted to check on whether the service mentioned in the bill have been contested. If yes, what are the estimation cost to accommodate and cover the expanded service of mandate, expanded service and mandate of the post office when this bill become a law? Thank you, Chair. Ngiyabonga, ngiyaleboga. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ngwenya. I'm trying to check if we have any other hand. Amanda, can you see if we do have a hand from your side?
No, Chair, there are no more hands.
There are no more hands. Okay, no, thank you very much, DG, for the presentation, and thank you very much to the officials that were supporting and giving more details on the amendments that are to be effected. So we really appreciate this, and of course, I would love to ask a question. And I think the first question that needs to be asked is that currently the post office have the capacity to exclusively handle and deliver 1 kg parcels around the country. I'm asking if, do you have currently that capacity to do that under the current arrangements? If not, how do you hope to resolve that issue? So also, DG, you made an indication that once the business rescue began its work, then if I heard you correctly, were you saying that automatically that disbanded the board of the post office? So I would like to get clarity on that, because sometimes it's important that we know, because we work together. We are responsible for legislation. You are responsible to implement policies of government. So it's important that we are aligned in terms of information like that, so that we don't hear some of the things as an after fact, but we hear them before, and we don't also want to take things for granted and assume, because that could be dangerous for us as a committee. So it's important that information is shared and things are not taken for granted, that automatically members would be aware of such. Is it something automatic, or because I also hear now something else on the presentation in terms of a process that will ensue to ensure that a new board is reconfigured. So if you can just have clarity there, that once the business rescue comes in, does that immediately delete the board automatically, or they still have to interface with the business rescue? And what is also the reporting structure of the business rescue? And it's critical as well that whilst the business rescue is there, and this relates to the question that was asked to Uma Mupipi, that the outcomes of the business rescue can either be positive or negative. So it would be important that you take us through there, that the relevance of the work that we are currently doing now in processing this particular bill, that it may not necessarily lead to a zero move, that here we are wasting our time if this thing goes negative in terms of the outcome of the work that is being done by the business rescue. So does this bill stand, whatever the case may be, it guarantees that the post office will not fall on its knees. It will not be collapsed. It will still exist. Lastly, I would like the legal team from Parliament to give us comfort as this committee that they have taken everything into account insofar as this bill is concerned. And they must express that it is clinical. Everything has been done to the T, that the members of this committee can give a nod to this, because we want to do that. Our concern here and our aspiration as we represent, of course, the aspirations of our people, is to ensure that this bill goes through, particularly because it is intended to save the post office, to turn it around, to make it relevant in this day and age, to do work in that ambit of the sector of the economy, which includes logistics, courier, everything that is expected as was articulated here. So we want to save the post office, because saving the post office for us also protects the jobs of some of the stakeholders that you say they have expressed themselves. Those interests are not narrow interests. They are actually national interests, because we are a country that is confronted by unemployment, poverty, and inequality. And an instrument like the post office, we take it as an asset of the nation. Therefore, for us, this bill talks to, a protection and a preservation mechanism, which is about reclaiming and restoring the post office. Nothing else. That's why I'm saying that the legal people of Parliament that are supposed to advise us that they have applied their minds, they have went into detail, because it's important to pay attention to detail, not just tick boxes. And in the context of us being employees, we must do the work that we do with absolute compassion, with absolute integrity, because the intention is to save a national asset. We've seen some of our national assets being put into a process which is very suspicious, that there is ulterior motive. So we don't want this to happen with the post office, because the post office in particular, DG, is an instrument that serves and services the poorest of the poor. They rely on that in every respect when it comes to communication, because there is no connectivity in the margins of our society, especially rural dwellings. So everything needs to be done. That's why we need an assurance more than just saying that we are coming up. We hope that this bill talks to the revolutionarization that I'm talking to in respect of reclamation, restoration and reaffirmation of the post office as a national asset. And that will be my summation to this. So it's both a question, but it's also a comment which also put a perspective across of why we are going through what we are going through with this exercise of processing this bill. Thank you very much. We'll give over to you, DG. Those are the only inputs we have from the members.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and also to the honorable members for their questions, and as well as the comments, and we're happy that the select committee finds true value in as far as the strategic need for the South African Post Office, equally shared by the department. Chair, if I may then just respond on some of the questions, and I'm also going to ask my colleague just to expand on the recommendations by the department with regards to the inputs. Honorable Bebe said in terms of the assurance of that this business rescue is not going to collapse, and I want to share the equal sentiments. Honorable members, you'll recall that earlier on last year, SAPO was facing liquidation. Government took a decision, cabinet, to rescue the post office purely on the recognition of its strategic need and its value, as well as then the services that it can provide to the communities. In most instances, honorable members, and I think we have real stats and figures, as also indicated, Honorable Chair, the post office serves basically as the only platform where then people can receive both social as well as government services. And they've been receiving, as you said, whether it's going to be your social grants in there, this is the only means in terms of the communication with the outside world. And the Soul Post Office is also offers other services as well for society as well as community needs. Through them, there's also the disbursements with regards to the other payments like your EPWs, your motor vehicles are being dispersed through the information from government is also provided through the post office. So we've to ensure that we avoid the circumstances that we've seen in other business rescuers where it has led to the collapse or even then the winding down of the entity. We've established an oversight committee in the department. That oversight committee is chaired by myself. And we have representatives from National Treasury. They between 4 and 6 experts from National Treasury. The department, myself, colleagues from policy, from finance, as well as our SOC oversight branch unit and legal. And then we also meet with the SAPO business rescuer This was one of the conditions also that the Minister of Finance had put, but we've made sure that, and our minister as well, but we've made sure that we meet monthly, and sometimes even more monthly. In this instance, in the last couple of weeks, we have been meeting on a weekly basis. And sometimes when there are matters that needs to be escalated, we do escalate to our minister. So the minister engages the business rescuers on a quarterly basis. The Minister of Finance as well. The last meeting was held over a week ago, and there's been some constructive inputs that we do make in as far as the plan that was adopted. Now, there is an implementation plan, honorable members, or there is a business rescue plan that was adopted by the stakeholders, just to give an assurance on the question that then was asked to say, is this bill still relevant? So within the plan itself, there are definitely aspects that align to what we want in there. So there is certainly the need in terms of repositioning the post office in this area of e-commerce and cargo logistics. The plan itself primarily puts it as one of its core functions, also part of stabilizing the unit, stabilizing post office and making sure that there's sustainable financial performance on that. And as such, they are going to aggressively move in this instance, both from a sales perspective as well as from a marketing, in order then to really expand on SAPO's capabilities as it is right now. So we know that the decline in terms of the mail volume does not necessitate that because of SAPO's strong footprint, which goes beyond our borders and recognized beyond our borders, has got a network against all the other UPU, which is a global network of over 190 countries. And therefore, that tells you that we are then able to move parcels, logistics, cargo all around the world through that particular network. And that is a very strategic asset that we have. Amongst others, the IT system for it, as you know, it's legislated that the post office is actually supposed to be for digital signatories, and we want to enhance in as far as the trust center. So there is going to be an investment that is being put in as far as then the IT systems. We also linked to also the bill itself and also the strategy under the business rescue plan. There's going to be an investment in terms of revitalizing the branch network as well as other property infrastructure. You would know that before we went on business rescue, we were definitely to then say we want to move in terms of the digital hubs. How do we expand in terms of the service offering that we have in the postal outlets and branches that we have across our country? And basically, that is going to be carried forward. And there's also going to be an investment under the business rescue plan in as far as the post office logistics on fleet, as well as the logistics IT systems, again, to support the expanded footprint. And then, as I said, the investment in as far as the post office mail processing, as well as then the hybrid mail equipment, linked to how then we want to make SAPO in terms of a smart commercial enterprise. And that also talks to then the last leg of forging the partnerships. So we are what is probably very key is that while there's alignment, there's a definite need for us to ensure a close monitoring of this. And I don't want to be to belittle this point, honorable members, that you would know that there has been, for example, previous similar plans in the past. Your strategic turnaround plan that was in 2015, but unfortunately that did not realize, or it was not implemented. So lessons learned from the past now tells us that there has to be a very close eye in as far as then the implementation is concerned. and therefore we are working on making sure that we assess the implementation jointly, as I said, under this oversight committee, and monthly, if not even earlier than monthly, a progress report is provided by the Business Rescue. Inputs is made from government, mindful even though that it's still under the Business Rescue, by the virtue of the fact that SAPO is a government enterprise. We are exercising, therefore, the rights in as far as then what the shareholder, specifically the rights of the department, as the shareholder is involved in its involvement in the implementation process. So honorable, and I think that probably also responds partly to the question and comment by Honorable Ngwenya, but I'm going to ask my colleague just to highlight some of the issues where we differ, to then say it may not necessarily be that the bill needs to be amended in terms of the inputs that were provided by the stakeholders. However, there are other processes, and some of the inputs, as it has been indicated by my colleague, you would then find that it actually is more relevant in another statutory instrument. With regards to the other question, Honorable Ngwenya asked about the cost in terms of its expanded mandate. Initially, we had set aside the 2.4 billion, which is now partly used for the business. Sorry, it was initially meant for the SAPO of Tomorrow strategy. However, now that has formed part of the Business Rescue. Over and above that, there is still an outstanding commitment by government. As far as these operational issues that I've highlighted, Honorable Ngwenya, from the Business Rescue plan that we've received, in as far as its breakdown, I'm also wanting to recognize that the colleagues from SAPO are actually, they've joined, they're on the platform now. So we've got Francel Gillian from the Business Rescue, as well as Jikesh from SAPO. They've joined us on the platform, and they can perhaps expand further. But in our calculation, the Business Rescue in the areas that are highlighted above, the cost were about 2.7, came to about 2.7, 2.8 billion. And therefore, I think there's sufficient funds available in as far as not only to stabilize SAPO, it's to also make it future-proofed and to make it not only sustainable but competitive in this digital era. So that funding has been put in terms of its forecast from the Business Rescue plan, and that's part of what we also then going to be monitoring going forward. The question, Chair, that you raised in as far as then the SAPO exclusivity, we certainly, the legislation still remains. SAPO is supposed to have a reserve market. As you know, the matter is serving before court. Both the department and the regulator are parties to it. And ours is then to then say, from a capacity perspective, one of the thoughts that we had, apart from obviously to say partnerships, and I think private-public partnerships can also come out of it. But we want, firstly, the recognition of the reserve market jurisdiction for SAPO. It is then for SAPO to then decide in as far as the model of this private-public partnership is concerned. We had also proposed, as you know, that there currently is retrenching taking place. And so we had put forward to then say some of those, and especially the postmen and etc., who are then going to be retrenched, they can be turned in terms of the motor vehicle delivery, and they can actually support that service. Currently, as we have it now, honorable members, yes, the delivery aspect of part of the e-commerce is definitely growing and expanding in South Africa. But in most instances, you know that it is hindered in as far as its optimization. One of those examples, for example, would be in your residential areas. You would know they would want for certain for one to produce a license and relevant papers, etc. We've therefore noted a gap in that market where the delivery persons at the moment may not have the right papers. So we are exploiting that opportunity to then say, certainly clearly we're seeing that there's room for this motor vehicle program to then plug into that space. And obviously they are filled with the intellectual institutional memory from SAPO in as far as the addressing, and this obviously will therefore contribute to job creation and obviously the more thriving economy, the digital economy, which we are looking at projecting its growth at 3.7% annually. So those are some of the in response of your question, Chair, on the SAPO exclusivity, that we still maintain it. We do not see the harm. What we would want and what the matter is before court is ensuring its implementation and therefore the respecting of that law by all. It's not necessarily to then say it's going to be restrictive or cutting off people, and obviously SAPO will be able to sit and look at how to ensure from that. From an oversight compliance perspective, yes, certainly I think there are challenges from ICASA in terms of the regulation, enforcement of the regulation. We are looking in as far as to say how do we build the capabilities, but we would want it to then become an honest responsibility, not just on the part of the regulator, but by all parties obviously participating in the e-commerce value chain, just to recognize the national laws and therefore abide by those. And so that's basically the emphasis that we're trying to emphasize even in our court papers as well, adherence to national laws. And then with regards to the business rescue question, Chair, that you raised, whether the board, the business rescue is governed by the Companies Act. So in as far as then that corporate governance provision under the Companies Act, it says that during the business rescue process, the business rescue practitioners have full management control of the company. And this is in substitute of the board as well as then the pre-existing management. We recognize that, and that's the current status. We have sat down with the business rescue and given therefore, with then our impression to then say, surely once towards when the plan starts being implemented, there has to come a point in time where then they will have to start giving the responsibilities and powers to then an accounting body, and at that point in time we will be ready to fill in the board, which is then the powers of the minister as then the shareholder, and then even then the management, so that they can then start taking the controls in as far as the implementation, because obviously going into the future, it will therefore be their responsibility. We're also mindful of the fact that the business rescue may delegate their powers and functions to a person in as far as the pre-existing management, etc. And that's in the section 140. So we are engaging the business rescue, and they will have to therefore give that indication as to when that time will come. And so we are working with them, notwithstanding, as I said, I think all parties are well cognizant with regards to that the Companies Act issue vis-a-vis the PFMA, and obviously the rights of the shareholders would therefore be respected throughout this process. And I think for now, there's certainly compliance in as far as this particular clause is concerned. Then, Chair, with regards to your comment and question on terms of the outcomes of the business rescue process, we certainly remain positive, and we certainly want to make sure that it will be as such, and that's why we have then the oversight committee. Ours is to ensure that coming out of this, as we said, and especially now supported by the bill, that we have a SAPO that is going to be competitive and relevant in the economy, and as I said, and taking advantage of the strategic asset and its position, both national as well as international. So that's why then we're committed to ensure that even the funding towards this is then directed in the right aspects of it. There are certain, as I said, areas where then from a PFMA perspective and the shareholders' right, we do exercise and we do work collaboratively with the business rescue practitioners. So the status of the bill versus the business rescue, I think they do complement each other, Chair, and as I highlighted earlier, in as far as then the commonalities, in as far as the business rescue plan and what we have put as then the prescriptive objectives of the amendments to the bill. Certainly, as I said, to exploit the infrastructure capacity, the widespread network infrastructure to make SAPO competitive, and for SAPO to serve as a logistics and e-commerce provider as well. And then lastly, the issue of ensuring that we save the post office as well as the impact of jobs, that and how then it contributes to the economy. We've seen, for example, Chair, the business rescue as itself, it made the sense, and even though it has been a hard decision to make, the settlement, because it would have meant over and above just the employees, there are a number of service providers who provide services, whether it's those who are renting their own outlets and properties for SAPO to operate, and others providing services in various areas of the administration of SAPO. So a lot of businesses, a lot of citizens are dependent in as far as the post office is concerned. And that's our intent then, to ensure that we do save the post office. I would like to hand over, Chair, with your permission, to my colleague, Dimakatso, just to really emphasize on the areas where, as a department, would like to retain, and then even just on the areas from the inputs from the stakeholders where we feel that they may be deferred to other instruments as well as processes. Thank you.
Thank you, DG. Thank you, Chair. With regards to, I think, DG, is the question regarding whether the department will want the inputs incorporated. As I indicated from the analysis, Chair, especially from SANCB and also from TAPE 8 for the blind, and also from COSATU. The inputs that were received are actually in support of the bill as is. Most of the issues that are highlighted in there are more of when the bill gets passed and gets implemented. Because currently, as they've indicated, the South African National Council for the Blind, that there are free services that they would want to see, and not only in a traditional way, but also in a technological way. So those are the things that are already incorporated in the amendment bill, in as far as where we have expanded on the mandate of the post office. So there's no need for anything. It's just that when the implementation of that bill, when it gets passed and when it gets implemented, we need to monitor and ensure that all the inputs that were submitted are actually factored into the license, into the regulations, and also during the implementation. And some of the of the issues that are raised, especially by the South African Council for the Blind, we will start to engage as the department with the post office to ensure that issues that they are raising, that services which were delivered before are no longer being delivered. We will take it up with the post office to ensure that, and also in consultation with the South African Council for the Blind, to ensure that they indeed receive the services that they are supposed to be receiving in as far as the delivering of their material is concerned, in line with those international instruments where it advocate for the delivery of free materials for the blind. With the same with COSATU, the issue is more on implementation, and as the DG indicated, and how the bill, when it gets promulgated, will be implemented. Firstly, to ensure service delivery, to ensure that the post office is sustainable and effective, and to ensure that it creates and retain more jobs, particularly the creation of more jobs, as the DG has already indicated. In as far as the actual clauses are concerned, there's no, especially from those that support the amendment bill, there's no amendment that is needed, that is not covered in their submission. It's only for the implementation thereof that we need to closely look at these inputs again, so that when we implement, and to starting even now to implement some of the recommendations, because we can still implement some of the recommendations without having to wait for the amendment bill to be processed. We'll start to engage as the department and share with the South African Post Office what the stakeholders are saying, especially on the issues of service delivery. So that will be my inputs to this, Chair, to say that currently there's no provision that needs to be changed based on the input that we have analyzed. Thank you.
Are you done, DG?
Yes, Chair, she have done.
Okay, no, thank you very much, DG. I think then that provides a very broad sense of answering the questions and dealing with the comments that we made. We wish to thank you for this, but I had indicated that if the legal advisors would want to give assurance to us, I would like now to give that opportunity to them. Before we release you, DG, because I want us to hear that from the legal advisors of Parliament in your presence. And then so that we conclude this session together, especially on this item. Then we can then release you after that to consider other items that do not require your presence. Legal advisors, are you still with us?
Chairperson, can you hear me?
Okay, please carry on.
Oh, okay. Good morning, Honorable Chairperson, and to the honorable members. And let me also extend greetings to my colleagues as well. Chairperson, look, as you are aware, the mandate of Parliament is three-pronged. One, we make laws. Two, we facilitate public involvement. And the third one, we exercise oversight over the executive. Chairperson, as you may be aware, Parliament is constitutionally obligated that before it enacts legislation, it must take reasonable steps to facilitate public participation. Affected persons must be afforded an opportunity to meaningfully participate in the legislative process. The public involvement process must give the public a meaningful opportunity to influence Parliament. And I think that's exactly what we've done. And Parliament must take account of the public's views. Even if the lawmaker does not change its mind, it must approach the public involvement process with a willingness to do so, which is exactly what the department has done in terms of responding to these comments. Chairperson, if you read COSATU's input, particularly on paragraph 2, I think it aptly captures the strategic importance of this bill. It says this bill will revive and capacitate the South African Post Office, position it as an alternative to poor and disadvantaged customers in the communities, inject badly needed competition into the postal sector, support the state's developmental mandate, and provide a path for revival of the of the South African Post Office itself. Chairperson, for us, this is the second bite really on the ferry because we dealt with this legislation in the other house. And I think Chair will agree with me that if you look at all the comments from various stakeholders, none of them have attacked the constitutionality of the bill. In fact, Chair, I would say to give comfort to you that all of them support it, except the fact that some of the issues that they raise, of course, find clarity or acceptance in other legislative instruments. Safe to say that I think SAEPA, as you know, the SAEPA and SAPO, Chair, I think there's some competition there in terms of space, and of course, ideologically, Chair, they would not necessarily be aligned in terms of the bill itself. But other than that, Chair, we were here to give comfort that there's no constitutional issue in this bill, and I think it's a progressive bill, and of course, it would help if this August House can support it. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much for that assurance, Mr. Tejane. DG, I think on behalf of the committee, let me express our appreciation for ensuring that you are here to come and present this and explain all the questions that we had. We now have comfort to take a decision as a committee. Thank you so much. Leave that with us. I think the members of the committee are covered in terms of how the questions were answered. Therefore, given the fact that it's a short week, busy week, it's a cabinet day on your side, you still need to make another presentation, but we have done what you were asked to do by us in this committee. So we can now release you, and thank you for coming. And I will ask the members of the committee to remain so that we can process other matters.
Thank you, Chair. If I may take this opportunity to thank the Select Committee for their continued support in terms of our programs, and wish you all a blessed Easter season, and may it be filled with renewed hope. Thank you.
Okay, Gigi, thank you very much. Much appreciated.
It's 200 for the big one, but I can then make it in half.
Honorable members, we need to consider the minutes of the previous meeting. Amanda, can you please just share those minutes on the screen? And also, can you just confirm, because my understanding is that now we actually make a quorum. We do constitute a quorum, so we are good to adopt our minutes. Is that right, Amanda?
That is correct, Chair, as well as the report. You are correct, Chair.
Okay, so what do we start with, the minutes or the report?
We can start with the minutes, Chair.
Yeah, are those the minutes that you have flighted now?
Correct, Chair.
Okay, go to page 1. I see the last page here, if I'm not mistaken. Members, here are the minutes. These are the minutes of the 13th of March. This was the meeting where we are getting a briefing from NEMISA on its mandate, challenges, and achievements, with a focus on transformation in the South African electronic media sector. There are the members that were in attendance, and those were the apologies that we had received. Can you scroll up? Scroll down. Those are the minutes. We had the opening remarks, and we had the opening remarks by the Deputy Minister, who took us through that, and then the presentation. And then we engaged with the presentation, and then we concluded on that after our responses. So, is there a member who wishes to move for the adoption of the minutes of the 13th of March so that we can sign them off?
Chairperson, Honorable BP moves for the adoption of the minutes. Thank you.
Honorable Mama BP moves for the adoption. Do we have a seconder?
Mudisa second.
And Honorable Baba second.
Thank you very much. The minutes have been seconded and headed. Thank you very much.
Wow,
Those minutes are now duly adopted. Let's now look at the report. Honorable members, this is our report. This is a report in relation to the South African Post Office. The date of this report is actually today's report, flowing from the presentation that we have just heard from the DG. It goes without saying that, given the fact that this is still fresh on our minds, we are quite clear in terms of the way forward with our engagements. I don't think there would be really a need to rehash, because it was a focused meeting dealing with a pertinent issue that relates to this strategic asset. We therefore, within our own rights as a committee, need to take a resolve and decide on this report. Is there a member who wants to move for the consideration of this report?
I move, Honorable Chairperson Mudise.
The Honorable Mudise moves that we do take a positive decision in relation to this and to consider this report. Is there a seconder?
Honorable Mamrobela seconded.
Honorable Mamrobela seconds. Honorable members, that then makes this our decision, and this report is duly adopted by the meeting. Thank you very much, honorable members. That was the third and the last item on our agenda today. And I wish to thank you, honorable members, for making time at this critical juncture in our country when we are facing an election on the year wherein we are celebrating the 30th anniversary of democracy in South Africa. We have a very critical election that is going to draw a way forward for our country to ensure that we continue with the work that we have started in the last 30 years. So I thank you that you made time to sit in a meeting when in some quarters and in your constituencies, you are expected to be hitting the ground running, doing the work for our people. So thank you so much, members. We will indicate if we are going to have another meeting. We'll communicate in our usual way. I wish not to waste any time so that I allow you to go back and do your work. Thank you so much, members. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Babas and the mamas. Thank you so much, guys. I love you, mamas and babas. Thank you. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Chair.
So
Thanks.
sweet.